Academic arrogance is the single most expensive liability in the modern global economy. While highly educated professionals suffer from agonizing analysis paralysis and a biological fear of making a mistake, individuals without a traditional degree are quietly executing extreme risk protocols, proving that real financial genius requires the absolute destruction of your academic ego. Right now, the global banking matrix is actively liquidating the purchasing power of the educated middle class through macroeconomic inflation. There is an incredibly narrow, rapidly closing window of opportunity to drop your intellectual superiority complex and restructure your capital allocation before the system permanently locks you into the working class. If you fiercely believe that your expensive college diploma guarantees your financial sovereignty, you are operating on a completely obsolete mathematical model that is actively draining your life force. The financial elite absolutely rely on your academic obedience. They desperately need you to remain a predictable, rule-following intellectual. In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the clinical, highly guarded architecture of the education trap. I'm going to show you exactly why individuals with high school diplomas are building massive generational wealth while straight-A students are drowning in consumer debt. The mathematical cost of your inaction today is devastating. If you choose to close this video right now to protect your fragile academic ego, you are voluntarily choosing to remain a highly profitable, perfectly domesticated employee for Wall Street. Society programmed a devastating biological virus into your brain the moment you stepped into a classroom. The system conditioned you to believe that formal education is the only legitimate pathway to financial security. You memorized the textbooks, you passed the standardized tests, and you collected the prestigious pieces of paper. You look at your framed degree on the wall, and your brain delivers a massive, intoxicating hit of dopamine. You feel profoundly superior to the high school dropout who started a blue-collar business. You feel intellectually elite. But when you look at your actual bank account, the clinical math tells a terrifyingly different story. Your degree did not teach you advanced wealth management. It simply taught you how to be an incredibly efficient, obedient gear in a corporate machine. Uneducated people are building true wealth faster than you because they are not infected with the paralyzing disease of academic perfectionism. How does a college degree trap your finances? When you analyze the raw, unfiltered data of the modern credit markets, the traditional university system reveals itself as a highly optimized mechanism for institutional leverage. To understand exactly why your college degree is a financial prison, you must fundamentally understand the clinical mechanics of human domestication. The system does not put you hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt by accident. That debt is not an investment in your future. It is a meticulously calculated, permanent biological leash. Let us look at the brutal reality of the educated earner. When you graduate with massive student loans, your risk tolerance is instantly reduced to absolute zero. You cannot afford to start a disruptive business. You cannot afford to execute aggressive portfolio diversification. You are mathematically forced to accept a safe, predictable corporate salary just to service the interest on your debt. The commercial banks absolutely love this. Through the highly profitable mechanics of fractional reserve banking, they take the massive interest payments from your student loans and lend that capital out to private equity firms and uneducated entrepreneurs who are actually building hard assets. Your expensive education ensures that you remain incredibly predictable. You show up to your corporate cubicle every single day because you are terrified of defaulting. You pay your massive tax burden without question. You are taking 100% of the macroeconomic inflation risk, while the banking elite harvest 100% of the financial upside. Meanwhile, the uneducated individual who skipped university entered the open market at 18 years old. They did not accumulate 6 figures of non-dischargeable debt. They spent the next 4 years failing, adapting, and aggressively learning the actual rules of commercial real estate and cash flow. By the time you receive your master's degree and your first entry-level corporate paycheck, the uneducated entrepreneur already owns the apartment building you are renting. The system intentionally traded your financial freedom for a piece of paper that makes you feel smart, effectively weaponizing your own intellect against you. What is the dark psychology of academic arrogance? The absolute darkest part of this mathematical equation is not the institutional debt itself. It is the psychological conditioning of the victim. The educated middle class is entirely addicted to the identity of being intellectually superior. Your ego violently demands the comfort of external academic validation. Look at sovereign individuals who take extreme financial risks, people who drop out of school to build massive cash-flowing businesses, and you judge them with absolute contempt. You call them lucky. You call their aggressive business tactics unethical. You soothe your own deep-seated anxiety by telling yourself that you are the morally and intellectually superior one because you read the right textbooks and followed the traditional rules. This is cognitive dissonance in its purest, most destructive biological form. Your primitive brain is absolutely terrified of the open market. It is terrified of facing the raw, unfiltered accountability of real-world capitalism. So, to protect you from the agonizing fear of looking stupid, your amygdala convinces you that academic status is more valuable than financial sovereignty. It frames your biological cowardice as intellectual sophistication. The hidden cost of this academic arrogance is total, paralyzing inaction. When you heavily identify as an educated professional, you biologically block yourself from acquiring true behavioral finance skills. You refuse to study the gritty, unglamorous mechanics of sales, negotiation, and leverage, because you mistakenly believe those skills are beneath your intellectual dignity. You sit quietly in your corporate office, terrifyingly dependent on a single stream of W-2 income, while secretly resenting the uneducated contractor who nets $50,000 a month. You are sacrificing the only life you will ever have to diligently defend a social hierarchy that keeps you permanently broke. Your unyielding academic arrogance ensures that your actual liquid net worth remains exactly at zero. Why does a high IQ cause analysis paralysis? If being highly intelligent and formally educated is a guaranteed mathematical loss in the modern economy, why does it happen so consistently? Because the school system actively programs your brain to fear failure. Pause and write this exact concept down right now. A high IQ without extreme execution is not an asset. It is an incredibly dangerous liability. When you spend 2 decades inside the traditional education system, you are biologically conditioned to believe that there is only one correct answer to every problem. If you make a mistake on a test, you are severely punished with a failing grade. You are taught that failure is a permanent mark of intellectual inferiority. This creates a highly toxic psychological phenomenon known as analysis paralysis. When an educated professional looks at a massive financial opportunity, like acquiring an undervalued commercial property or launching a disruptive business, their high IQ immediately begins mapping out every single worst-case scenario. They read 100 academic books on market volatility. They build massive, overly complex financial spreadsheets. They desperately try to gather enough data to guarantee a perfect outcome before they deploy a single dollar of capital. The open market absolutely slaughters this hesitation. While the educated professional is busy overanalyzing the macroeconomic environment and trying to predict the exact peak of the interest rate cycle, the uneducated individual simply executes. The uneducated person does not suffer from analysis paralysis because they do not have a fragile academic ego to protect. They are completely comfortable looking stupid. They launch the ugly product. They make the messy sales call. They buy the asset and figure out the complex operational mechanics later. They understand that in the realm of true wealth generation, speed and volume always conquer academic perfection. By the time the high IQ professional finally decides to take a tiny, calculated risk, the uneducated entrepreneur has already captured the market share, absorbed the failures, and generated massive asymmetrical returns. Your intelligence is actively keeping you poor because it makes you too slow to survive. How do the uneducated execute extreme risk protocols? The clinical architects of true generational sovereignty, many of whom possess zero formal education, operate on a ruthless, highly systematic protocol of absolute capital allocation. They completely and utterly reject the traditional path of the obedient, educated middle class. They understand that the academic rules were written by the wealthy, for the wealthy, to keep the intelligent poor safely contained in corporate cubicles. When an uneducated, elite operator looks at the global banking system, they do not see an academic theory to be studied. They see a mechanical machine to be relentlessly exploited. They experience a biological urgency to deploy capital into hard assets before inflation can touch it. Because they never learned the safe way to invest, they execute aggressive financial defensive protocols immediately. They buy heavy commercial real estate. They acquire boring, unglamorous cash-flowing businesses like laundromats, logistics companies, and waste management facilities. They build automated business systems that rely heavily on compound interest and extreme institutional leverage. They do not want to be respected intellectuals. They want to be the invisible owners of the infrastructure. They intentionally break the psychological rules of the educated class because they know that playing it academically safe is the most dangerous financial decision a human being can make. They endure the short-term discomfort of extreme market volatility because they are entirely focused on long-term generational wealth transfer. The uneducated elite understand that true wealth requires exploiting the system, not writing academic essays about it. They use strategic debt to acquire massive physical assets, effectively shorting the fiat currency. They boldly borrow the exact same cheap capital that you obediently left in your high-yield savings account, and they use it to buy the commercial real estate that your corporate employer now has to rent from them. It is a masterclass in asymmetrical financial warfare. They are the apex predators of the economy, and they feed entirely on the predictable, paralyzed behavior of educated rule followers. What is the exact cost of your academic ego today? Every single day you delay killing your academic, intellectually superior identity, the open market mercilessly punishes you. The true, mathematical cost of your inaction today is absolutely devastating to your long-term biological survival. You are completely out of time to fix this through traditional means. While you are sitting there, incredibly proud of your prestigious university degree and your perfectly formatted corporate resume, the fundamental rules of global capital are permanently shifting beneath your feet. The financial gap between those who aggressively execute on hard assets and those who endlessly analyze economic theories is no longer a gap. It is an unbridgeable canyon. If you do not execute a sovereign, aggressive financial protocol today, you will be forced to follow the corporate rules until the exact day your physical body completely fails. You will rely on a broken, mathematically insolvent government pension system that will completely evaporate right when you actually need it the most. Your precious academic ego will literally work you to death. You have a brutal binary choice staring you directly in the face right now. You can close this video, go back to your safe corporate cubicle, continue to judge people who take extreme risks, and remain a highly profitable, perfectly educated slave for Wall Street. You can voluntarily choose to let your high IQ be the battery that powers their institutional leverage. Or you can wake up and face the clinical reality. You can stop vehemently defending an academic rulebook that was explicitly designed to guarantee your poverty. You can ruthlessly murder your intellectual ego, embrace the temporary clinical discomfort of making massive mistakes in the open market, and start executing the exact capital allocation protocols of the uneducated elite. You must immediately transition from the mindset of a paralyzed intellectual who begs the system for a safe grade, to the mindset of a clinical architect who bends the system to their absolute will. The trap of the educated prison is only inescapable if you willingly refuse to drop your diploma and walk out the open door. Hit the subscribe button right now as your absolute declaration of financial sovereignty. Check the links in the description to access the exact defensive toolkits the elite use to structure their portfolios and protect their wealth from institutional extraction. Master the math, execute your academic ego, or prepare to be permanently liquidated by the system. See you in the next protocol.